Breaking news. The Atlanta Falcons have just confirmed that Terry Fontano is on the move. But is this change a step in the right direction? Will these decisions pay off? We'll find out soon. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on all the latest news behind the scenes. The Falcons have made another move in free agency. While it might not be the big signing fans were hoping for, it's a smart addition that could make a real difference. Atlanta is bringing in Jamal Agnew, a special teams ace and former Pro Bowler. He's likely to take over the role left open by Avery Williams, who recently signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. This move isn't about boosting the wide receiver group or adding depth to the secondary. It's all about fixing the return game, an area where the Falcons have struggled for a while. Agnew's signing is a one-year deal worth up to $2.5 million, a low-risk move that could pay off if he returns to his Pro Bowl form from 2022. His career stats in the return game are impressive: 4 punt return touchdowns, 2 kickoff return touchdowns, and an average of 25.5 yards per kick return. The Falcons haven't had a reliable returner in some time, and Agnew's experience and speed could help change that. One important factor to consider is the NFL's kickoff rule, which was initially a one-year trial but is expected to continue. This rule change has made return specialists more valuable than ever, and we're already seeing teams prioritize this position in free agency. Atlanta needed to address this issue, and Agnew seems like a solid choice. However, his contract doesn't guarantee him a spot on the roster. He'll need to prove himself in training camp. Looking at free agency overall, the Falcons have been pretty quiet. They haven't gone on a spending spree, which has disappointed some fans. The truth is, there weren't many big-name defensive ends or outside linebackers worth the money this year. So far, the biggest signings include Divine Diablo on a 2-year, $4 million deal, Leonard Floyd for 1 year at $10 million, and the re-signing of Mike Hughes on a 3-year, $18 million contract with nearly $10 million guaranteed. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Was this the right approach? Fans wanted splashy signings, but sometimes the best move is the one you don't make. Could the Falcons have gone after Josh Sweat? Maybe, but he chose to join the Cardinals to reunite with his former coach, Jonathan Gannon. The options for top-tier pass rushers just weren't great this year. In fact, it was a tough offseason to need both a quarterback and a defensive end. Just imagine if the Falcons had waited to address the quarterback position instead of drafting Michael Penix Jr. last year. That could have been a disaster. So, what does the Falcons' defense look like now, especially with the draft still ahead? There's a lot that could change, but one of the most exciting battles is at inside linebacker. Troy Anderson and Divine Diablo will be competing for a starting spot. Speed has been a major concern at this position. Players like Caden Ellis and Nate Landman struggle to keep up with the fast pace of today's NFL. Diablo should help improve that speed, and if Anderson fully recovers from his injury, this unit could see significant improvement. In the safety position, the Falcons made another important signing by bringing in Jordan Fuller. Fuller played for the Carolina Panthers last season and was drafted in the 6th round in 2020 by the Rams, where he worked under Raheem Morris. That connection likely influenced this signing. When healthy, Fuller has started 46 out of 48 games, and he's expected to team up with Jesse Bates III. However, injuries have been a concern for him. He only played 3 games in 2022, but when he's on the field, he's been a solid contributor. This move also suggests that Justin Simmons will not be returning. Simmons, who led the NFL in takeaways from 2016 to 2023, had a disappointing season in Atlanta, finishing with just 2 interceptions. The expectations were high, but he didn't quite meet them. With Fuller now in the mix, it looks like the Falcons are officially moving on. Of course, free agency isn't just about new additions, it's also about losses. In the past 24 hours, Atlanta lost linebacker Nate Landman, who signed with the LA Rams. Landman, an undrafted free agent from Colorado, was a key player for the Falcons, starting 14 games in 2023 while filling in for an injured Troy Anderson. His stats last season included 110 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 2 sacks, and an interception. That's not the kind of production you can easily replace. This brings us to a big question. How much better is the Falcons roster compared to last season? They've lost key players like Grady Jarrett and Drew Dahlman. Yes, they've added Leonard Floyd, Jordan Fuller, and Divine Diablo, but is this really an upgrade? Right now, it feels more like a lateral move at best. The draft could change things, but if you told Falcons fans back in February that this would be their free agency haul, the excitement level probably wouldn't be very high. So let's wrap this up with one final question. How would you grade the Falcons' free agency so far? Are they doing enough to improve, or are they just treading water? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. While the draft could still shake things up right now, this feels like a see-off season at best. Let's talk about it. And that's the real question, isn't it? Have the Falcons actually improved, or are we just witnessing another offseason filled with small moves that won't push this team to the next level? Let's be honest, this franchise has been stuck in the middle for too long. They haven't had a playoff win since 2017, and there hasn't been a dominant defense in over a decade. If Atlanta wants to be a serious contender in the NFC, these small changes need to lead to something bigger. Now, here's another way to look at it. Maybe the front office is playing the long game. They might be assessing this free agency class and deciding that there aren't many elite pass rushers available, so they don't want to overpay for average players. Honestly, that's a smart strategy, if they can make the most of the draft. This is where Terry Fontano really needs to prove himself. If the Falcons are going to take a cautious approach in free agency, their draft picks must be successful. There's no other option. This brings us to what could be the most critical moment of the offseason, the 2024 NFL Draft. If the Falcons don't find at least one impact player in the first two rounds, it's hard to see how they can make significant progress next season. Pass rush has to be the top priority. They can't keep ranking at the bottom of the league in sacks. So what's the plan? The defensive line has some pieces, but there's no true game changer. Leonard Floyd is solid, but at 32 years old, he's not a long-term solution. Morgan Fox is a good rotational player, but he's not an elite pass rusher. Arnold Ebiketie and Zach Harrison are still question marks. That's why the draft is so crucial. If Atlanta can land a player like Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, or Chop Robinson at pick 15, suddenly this defense could look a lot more dangerous. But here's the tricky part. What if the top edge rushers are gone by the time Atlanta picks? Do they trade up? Do they settle for a second-tier pass rusher, or do they shift their focus to another position of need? These decisions will define this front office's future. If they miss on another draft class, the Falcons could be facing another wasted season. And let's not forget about the offense. While most of the attention has been on the defense, there are still questions on that side of the ball. The depth at wide receiver is a concern, and they're counting on Casey Washington to step up. But is that enough? The offensive line still has some gaps, especially with Drew Dahlman leaving in free agency. Then there's Michael Penix Jr. He won't be the starter right away, but if Kirk Cousins struggles or gets injured, all eyes will be on him quickly. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Go Falcons!